Okay, next up, seriously, next up, we have Amy Lynn Smith, and she's a healthcare advocate and writer, and got important things to say, a lot like Renee, so let's give her a round of applause. Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, Amy. What a friendly crowd. I love it. I am really excited to be here with so many terrific activists and artists and leaders of our state. And we're all here for the same reason, because we care about the future of the great state of Michigan. And we care about the future of the women, families, and men who live here. That's certainly why I'm here today. I know you all are. You know, we have to start paying attention because there's a lot at stake here. A lot of you may know my work from a Collectablog, but I've been, thank you, I have been concerned and became an activist, became an advocate. I found my voice because I was really, really concerned about the way some politicians are trying to push the rest of us around, and the way a vocal minority is trying to force the rest of us to live by their beliefs. That's not right. And I found, as I've worked to help, alongside others, to help protect women's rights, especially when it comes to health care, that what matters most is using our voices. There are far more reasonable people in America than there are extremists. We just have to raise our voices so we speak out and are heard over their screaming. We have made a lot of progress, we really have, but it seems like every time we make a step forward, there's a step back. For example, women who have insurance no longer have to pay a copay for birth control thanks to Obamacare, which is awesome. Right? It's awesome. It's preventive care. But then along came the Supreme Court decision in the Hobby Lobby case, which is a huge problem. Right, exactly. So this is what we're up against. We have to keep standing up for what we know is right, because it's really a health issue. When women don't have birth control access, their health is at risk. For example, I know that birth control is important for itself, for its own right. That's why I started taking the pill years ago. But later, I needed to take the pill to control bleeding so heavy that I became anemic. So taking the pill became a health issue for me. And this is why we have to stand up for women's health rights. Restricting access to birth control puts women's health at risk. When women get pregnant when they're not ready or they can't afford it, they are at increased risk for problem pregnancies and unhealthy children. I once had someone say to me, well, why don't you just get a hysterectomy instead of taking the pill to control your bleeding? I mean, is that the kind of choice we want to force women to make if their insurance doesn't cover birth control? This is why our voices and our votes matter so much. Women's health is at risk. One of the most alarming laws is the one that Renee spoke about, is the, women's health is at risk because lawmakers voted to force women to buy a separate insurance rider if they want to be able to have an abortion that isn't paid for out of their own pocket. Women whose health is at risk, whose pregnancies put them at risk for kidney damage or infertility or even permanent disability, their doctors cannot help them unless they have purchased this coverage. Otherwise, these women would have to pay out of pocket for the entire price of the procedure, and if it's an emergency, that could mean a bill in the thousands of dollars. There is no provision in this law, there is no exception for the health of the mother, only the life of the mother. Another problem is that most insurance plans in Michigan don't offer this coverage. Women like me who buy our own insurance, we can't buy this coverage at any price. Thanks to some great Democratic lawmakers, legislation was introduced just this week to require insurance companies to offer this coverage. Because if women have, right? For those women. If women have to buy this insurance, it needs to be available. This is what happens when you let a religious extremist group write your legislation, which is what happened with this law. Some elected officials are trying to get this extremist law repealed, but unless we take action on November 4th and clean the House and Senate of these anti-women legislators, unless we do that, unless we replace these anti-women legislators, laws like this are going to keep going on the books that hurt women's health. For example, in Michigan, a bill keeps being presented year after year that would allow healthcare providers to turn away anybody under religious or moral reasons. Even in an emergency, the protections for patients are almost non-existent. So a doctor or a nurse could refuse to treat someone because they have a religious or moral objection. And we're not just talking about abortion. This could affect birth control conversations, birth control counseling, woman care, treatment for the LGBT community, and even not taking someone off life support at the request of the family and their patients. Someone else's religious beliefs shouldn't control the kind of health care you get. But it could. Some of those people who want this bill are running for re-election in November. The LGBT community in Michigan, their health is at a special risk because of so much discrimination. Some Michigan insurance companies are actually taking away coverage for trans health that they used to provide, like hormone therapy. When trans women and men are taking hormones, if they are abruptly forced to stop taking those hormones, that is a significant health risk. Both Medicare and many other states have decreed these kinds of services as essential medical services. But you know, there are extremist politicians out there who will try to pass a law allowing this kind of discriminatory exclusion, and it's just not right. So that's why it's essential that you take a look at the voting records of your elected officials and the positions of the candidates running for office. If they voted against women once, they will do it again. Don't give them that chance. Make sure you're getting behind candidates who will support women's issues, who will fight for health care access, equal treatment under the law, fair pay, and even the right to breastfeed in public. We have to elect more pro-women officials. So between now and November 4th, knock on doors, make phone calls, post on Facebook, tweet, send emails, let people know that you are standing with candidates who stand with women. Because that, and above all, make sure to vote, take people with you. You have got to vote in this election. Your voices and your votes can make the difference. It's absolutely our lives and our health is at stake. And electing pro-women candidates is how we are going to move the state of Michigan forward to be a place of greater equality for women and for everyone who lives here. Thank you very much.
The kid is definitely not my son. Thank you for that.